What's up, everybody? We are back at it again at MKX Garage, working on a 2008 Lincoln MKX. We're doing the inner tie rod in. As a suggestion, one of the things you may want to do if you don't own the tool, you may want to purchase it. I think you can get them at Harbor Freight, or you can buy it online, or you can go to your local auto parts store and rent this inner tie rod in removal tool. So here's an idea of what it looks like. It's got this long pipe, and on the end is where you slot in this little piece here. So this goes in like that, and then you lock it in place. On this one, for this vehicle, it's a 1 7/16. So this is the little tool you're gonna need. And you're gonna have to put this actually on the tie rod end before you lock it down with inside the tool. It makes it a lot easier and you won't be struggling. Like, I've seen videos where a guy has used like a pipe wrench or like some long pliers to get this tie rod in out, but this tool works great. Definitely a good item to have in your toolbox if you're doing a lot of these. So to get to it, one thing you're gonna have to do first is we're doing some other things here. So we removed our spindle, but you're gonna have to remove the outer tie rod end, unscrew that, make sure you count the turns that you unscrew when you remove that, because you're gonna need to know that when you put it back on. And the customer's gonna have to take the car, get in alignment, just to be sure that everything's in perfect alignment. Then one thing you wanna do is take your steering wheel. We're working on the driver's side, and you want to turn your wheel all the way to the right. So what that'll do is it'll take this inner tie rod in and push it out to give you more room to work with, so you won't be under the car or up in the air struggling. Then the next thing you want to do is remove this clip from the bellows boot. I've already taken the clip off just so you can see. You know, on the back side of the boot, there's usually like a wire. If you still have the factory one installed, this is kind of what it looks like. This thing is twisted on here, so you'll be struggling trying to get this thing off. So if you can get some pliers in there and twist it, which is kind of what we did, we just took our time turning it, or if you can go in there and cut this thing without destroying your boot, do that. And make sure you do not destroy this boot, because you will have to reuse it, because your new inner tie rod end does not come with one. Go figure. So once you do that, you go ahead, wheel this boot off, and it gives you access to the part of the inner tie rod end that you're gonna have to replace. All right, so like I said, to use this tie rod end removal tool, the clamp we're gonna use is a 1 7/16. So what you do is you find a spot, there's got some flat sides on here, and you slide that on like so. Then you go ahead and get your tie rod end removal tool, and you slide this over the tie rod end, and then this little notch here, you're gonna match it up to the notch right here. And once you get that over the notch, I'll flip it around this other side, you just flick this little lock and slider, which locks it on to the tie rod end. Kind of hard to do with one hand. All right, so we removed the boot, and you can see how bad this tie rod end is. Check this out. These should not move freely. They should be extremely stiff. And I'll show you the brand new replacement one. See, that bad boy's not moving at all. It should only move from the force of the vehicle. So this definitely was a need of some inner tie rod ends, because the customer complained about some wobbliness in steering, and the outer tie rod ends had already been replaced. One thing to be aware of with this Lincoln, it may be the same for the Ford Edge, because they're basically the same car, is our tie rod end had these locking clips that were holding it on to the side of the tie rod end. So you may want to push these back with a screwdriver to go ahead and remove those. It makes it way easier. So now you see how it locks in place. And then this thing's got an opening on the end for like a 1/2 inch ratchet. So you can use like a hand ratchet or a breaker bar, or you can use a impact gun, put that on there, and then you just twist this bad boy counterclockwise to remove your inner tie rod end. All right, we've loosened it enough, or now we can just take the rest of the way off by hand, and there you go. That's the old one. Grab your new one. It's already got some anti-seize on the end of the nut, or shall I say the end of the screw. Twist that bad boy back in. Do the same thing, you take that removal tool, slide that on here, snug that back down, and then make sure you lock down these locking brackets back on the flat sides of the inner tie rod end. All right, inner tie rod end's back on. Make sure you lock down these little tabs. You see I've already pressed one of them down. I just used some channel locks to do that. So there's 4 of those. Make sure you do those all the way around to lock those back in. And then afterwards, you want to make sure you replace your bellows boot. The inside that clamp it down, you may have to use a zip tie because that twist tie that was on there really isn't reusable. You can try it. It's a little difficult to get that back on, but a zip tie always works great. And then put your boot back on, make sure you clamp on the end. Remove this, or actually roll this bolt back. And when you put your outer tie rod end back on, make sure you remember how many turns you had to rotate back that back onto the tie rod end here. And then lock this nut down. Just make sure you get it close to where you had it before when you took it off. So if you didn't count the turns, you might be in trouble, because you want to make sure you get this back as close to where it was. So when the person goes to take the vehicle to get a wheel alignment, if you're not doing it yourself, it makes it that much easier. So that's it for the inner tie rod end. And thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Make sure you check us out on the next video. Hit that notification bell, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.